So this week's topic is what feminism means to me.
Oh, brilliant. One of those videos again. I've totally not heard those before, but you seem nice and I'm going to give you a chance, so continue.
Here we go. Unfortunately, lately, I feel like feminism has gotten such a bad reputation.
Oh yes, it definitely has a bad reputation. But why is that?
Primarily because different celebrities have voiced their opinions on it, and whenever a celebrity or a popular figure in the media voices their opinion on something, a lot of people kind of take it as fact.
No, I don't think that's the reason why feminism has such a bad reputation. I think you'll find that its track record over the last, 40 years, hell, you could stretch back to even 100 years, has shown that it really isn't all what it cracks up to be. I mean, just one example I want to give you, because giving everything away so soon would give me no argument. For example, this toxic environment that is created on college campuses, where you basically cannot even espouse views that aren't even like theirs in the slightest. If you're not a feminist, you have to be a feminist. If you're conservative, good luck, you'll be ostracised immediately. And also, they are making it incredibly hard for men and women on campus to actually interact with each other and have good relations because of their incredibly draconian laws when it comes to sexual assault and how people should interact with one another. Just to give you that example, the college campuses at the moment are cancer, thanks to feminism and also social justice, but let's stick to feminism.
And I think that we don't realize that we can each kind of come up with our own interpretation of what feminism is.
Well, yeah, everyone can have their own interpretation of feminism. At the moment, what's in power is the Radfem's crazy interpretation of feminism, particularly with a Marxist bent to it. And they're the ones that are making the universities cancer. They're the ones who are trying to impose draconian laws on us. For example, in New York, and this is only a light example of how bad it can be, they've made manspreading illegal. Basically, if a man sits naturally as he does on a train and takes up too much space, that is now illegal. That is what's giving feminism a bad reputation, not people who are celebrities giving their interpretations or their opinions on feminism. That's somehow making other people believe them. I think you're giving people far less credit than they actually deserve. They deserve a hell of a lot more credit. A lot of people have minds of their own, and if you've looked at the statistics, you'll find that 18% of women, I think in the US, and half of that in the UK, identify as feminists. And why is that? Because of things like that. Feminists have no one to blame but themselves when it comes to their own reputation being in tatters. But again, continue.
Taylor Swift's definition of feminism doesn't necessarily have to be what feminism is to you.
Again, who's basing their feminism on some words of a celebrity? You're not really making much sense, and I don't know where you've got this from, because it's not celebrities that are feeding this bad reputation to feminism. It's feminism's actions, remember? These celebrities are feminists. Surely they should be doing a good thing for feminism by promoting it, but apparently not. That doesn't make much sense, does it? And even then, it's not their fault, and they're not the primary reason why feminism has such a bad reputation today. In fact, you could argue that your video blaming them and not the problems of your movement could be considered a reason why you don't have a reputation, because you're either unaware of the problems or you just choose to ignore them. I don't know which one it is, but that's just an hypothesis I have.
Now, I personally identify myself as a feminist, and it bothers me that so many women nowadays are trying to distance themselves from the phrase feminism or feminist because they think of it as something bad, something perhaps too strong and too powerful.
Well, they look at their brothers, their fathers, their uncles, their nephews, their sons, and then they see what feminism says about them, toxic masculinity, the fact that they could be a potential rapist, the fact that they have this privilege, that they're oppressing them, and they see it as bullshit. They see straight through the lies and the propaganda, and they see what feminism is trying to do, which is to hate them, to say, look, they are your enemy, they are your oppressors, overcome them. I wouldn't say destroy them, although if you were to believe in the Scum Manifesto, yes, you would want to destroy them. And they don't like this man-hating bullshit. And that's probably why a lot of them have chosen to disassociate themselves. Anecdotal, and I know this probably doesn't count, but I once had sex with a girl and she said that we would like to be feminists, most girls, but we just find you stupid. I mean, not you yourself. You seem okay, you seem fairly normal, but that's the thing. The average woman seems to think that feminism as an ideology is stupid, and that the feminists in it, not all of them, are also stupid. So they don't want any part of it. They want something that speaks to them and is smart and grounded.
You see, so many people think that by believing in feminism, women are trying to bring men down.
Well, yeah, when you have people like Jessica Valenti saying we should pay men less in order to end the pay gap, even though the pay gap doesn't exist, it's just an earnings gap, and that this whole pay men less thing won't work, and it's quite funny that they claim that women are paid less, so we should pay men less. You can see why people think that they want to bring men down. And also, like I said before, in New York, illegalising manspreading, or the fact that Nottinghamshire police, where they've now included misogyny as a hate crime, even though sexism is already in their list of hate crimes. They've made the definition of this crime so wide that just talking to someone could get you arrested, because it's all based on their feelings and not on the facts. So yeah, that's another reason why people would think that they're bringing men down.
But at this point, men are here and women are here in society, and we are trying to bring women up instead of bringing anyone down.
Currently, in both the UK and the US, or Canada, I don't know which one of the two you're from, there are more women than men in university. In fact, so much so that Scottish universities are being pressured in the UK to get more men into uni because the numbers are falling. Women are doing much better in education while males aren't, because the system is geared heavily in favour of women, not men. Boys aren't getting the education that they need because it's tailor-made for women. We have legislation that guarantees equal pay and anti-discrimination laws and violence against women laws. Yet there's no Violence Against Man Act, is there? There's no rape law in the Western world that isn't gender neutral. It's all to do with the Duluth model that males are always the perpetrators and women are always the victims. How exactly is your model correct? How are women here when men are there? From what I just said, you could argue that it's actually backwards. It's more men are here, but women are there, sort of. We've all got equal pay, we can all go for any job we want, we've all got equal opportunity, yet we have these niggling things here that are affecting men, and nobody's doing a damn thing about it.
I think that there are three different points of feminism. The first point obviously would be gender equality, women being equal to men, whether that be by means of societal respect, by means of economics, women making the same amount as men for the same labor.
First, I would like you to define what societal respect is. What do you mean? Do you mean men respect women as a whole? Do they respect them as a gender? Do you mean they're not sexist? They don't judge women based on their gender? And as I mentioned before, women and men are both paid the same in terms of wages, because you have to by law. Although this doesn't stop the porn industry from paying female stars more than men, although gay male stars are paid the same as women, regardless of their sexuality, while straight men don't earn as much, but they work enough that they can get the same overall in terms of earnings. The thing is, it's an earnings gap. If a man and a woman does the same amount of work for, say, $6.70 an hour, they will get paid the same at the end of the month. But if the woman does, say, 10 hours less in a week than the man does, she doesn't get paid as much. That's how the wage thing works in our societies. You get paid for how much you do, not because of your gender. That's illegal. That's not happened for absolutely goddamn decades.
That concept of feminism really resonates around the fact that as human beings we should all be treated equally, get paid the same amount, get respected the same amount, because our genitalia has nothing to do with our mindset or our abilities or our potential.
I agree, your genitalia should not matter, but then Jessica Valenti still said we should pay men less. So there are feminists advocating paying men less in order to get them to be paid the same as women who do less work. You know, these men are doing more work than they are. And, you know, I agree with you with everything else. It doesn't affect your potential or anything like that. But in terms of ability, well, you know, a man can, on average, hold more weight than a woman can and do more physical activity, really. That's why I weigh more suited to construction than a woman. Not to say that women can't do it, it's just on average. Sometimes biology does get in the way, but that's just nitpicking.
I think that the second point of feminism is to break the barriers of past societal stigmas of what a woman should be. For instance, a feminist might try to break the ideal that a woman should be in the kitchen cooking constantly and that she should have no other place outside of the home.
Why is feminism against that anyway? If a woman wants to do that, let her. We're now in a society where that is no longer the thing that a woman should do. If anything, it's pointless careerism that feminism has pushed for decades. To quote George Carlin, that is the thing now. It's a personal choice, so should a woman be allowed to do that? If she wants to, if the man's not pushing her to do it either, if she just wants to do that, should she be allowed? I think so. I think people have the right to decide what role they want to play in society or with their families. And the same should go for men. What, can't they be house husbands as well? Although society doesn't really give them the ideal situation to do so, because usually women don't earn as much because either they perform in low-paying jobs or they simply work less hours, so the man has to also work as well. But then again, that's nitpicking. But why is feminism against that? We don't live in that society anymore. Hardly anybody thinks that that should be a woman's role in society.
Similarly, a feminist might try to break the logic that a woman belongs to a man, or that a woman is a pawn to a man's discretion, to be used to a man's discretion.
Again, you're describing things that people used to think a long time ago. Most people do not think like that anymore because society has changed. The cultural attitudes have now changed. Can you at least think of something that a feminist would think of in the here and now? Because when I think of something what they would think of, they think that men should be taught not to rape, because apparently teaching women how to prevent it, because we can't teach psychopaths not to rape because they're going to do so anyway and they know they're breaking the law, and men who are normal know what consent is and know how to get it, is what they think. That's what they think, for example. That's one thing. I'm not saying that you should believe that, but at least come up with something that is in the here and now that is an issue for women, because I can't think of anything right now beyond maybe the few isolated cases where abortion is not legal, like for example, say, Ireland. In the Republic of Ireland, and I think also in Northern Ireland, it's illegal. Why not that? Why not talk about stuff like that, rather than stuff that happened years ago and something that even in those countries, only very few people think that way, and they tend to be very ultra-conservative, alt-right types.
That women should not be able to be catcalled on the streets.
That's not a human rights issue. That's not a women's rights issue. Catcalling is catcalling. Men get it, women get it. It's something that arseholes do. You can argue that it's a compliment because some women and some men think that it is a compliment while others don't. Everyone has a different interpretation of it, and it's not a human rights abuse, okay? Let's get that out of the way. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Some do. What, you're going to make it illegal and deprive people of things that make them feel better? Because then that's authoritarian, and that's kind of what you're implying there.
At inappropriate times, and said inappropriate things too, just because it can be.
It could be what? Offensive? I'm sorry, but the state shouldn't have to protect your feelings. They don't protect my feelings. And in some cases in life, you just have to put up with it and grow a thicker skin, because there's some things you just can't stop. And men and women do that. And there's not much we can do.
I think that the third point of feminism is really for women to empower other women. So often I think in modern day society, a woman's biggest fear is judgment from another woman. I think that women are not empowering each other anymore, lifting each other up. I think instead we are reverting to comparison and body image and appearance as a means of trying to determine who is worthy.
But that's a thing that you've always done since time immemorial, and guys do it as well. People envy each other, people covet each other, people are jealous of each other, people look up to people. That's not an issue. Again, that's feelings. This is not facts. This is not a human rights issue. Although I do agree with the sentiment that, women should help each other rather than, put each other down, but humans put each other down in general and pull each other up or pull themselves up. So yeah, there's not much you can do about that, I'm afraid. Humans will be humans.
I think that feminism really embodies the concept that all women should be empowered and all women should be celebrated, simply because we are worthy of it.
Says who? Your ideology? And if that was the case, how come many feminists will lambast, criticise and attack women who aren't feminists, who don't call themselves one? You see it with celebrities. Celebrities have tried to say their opinion, say that they're not, and they get harassed and bombarded. Like a couple of months ago, one of the people from the Big Bang Theory said she wasn't, and people harassed her who happened to be feminists. So yeah, practice what you preach. I mean, maybe you do, but the rest of your movement aren't. So that's another reason why they have a bad reputation. And to be honest, these 3 points that you've listed, which is your own interpretation, most don't follow at all.
You know, performing in musical theater, it's such a competitive industry, and especially going to college for it, you see so many different girls of such high calibers of talent, and none of them look like you, none of them may sound like you or perform like you, and it's so easy to degrade yourself or compare them or compare yourself to someone else. But at the end of the day, I think that feminism is really just the concept that you can be your own person and be amazing, and I can be my own person and be amazing, and we don't need to compete and we don't need to compare. We can each be amazing, and there doesn't need to be any competition or any animosity between the two of us.
Well, the problem is life is competitive. The problem is life is competitive. You can see it in nature and not just in our society. In order to be the greatest dancer, you have to rise up against the other dancers in your group. I think it was dancing, wasn't it? That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That's how your teachers and future employers can see if you're good enough, if you are better than everybody else. It doesn't matter if you're different. It doesn't matter if you have some uniqueness to you. If you don't have the attitude or the drive to improve, to succeed where others don't, you won't make it. That's not a bad thing. That's just life. That's how they get the greatest dancers, and why you see people on TV and music videos and world famous ballerinas. They rose to the top because they had maybe the potential or the attitude. It's the same in sports. That's not bad competition. And it's funny that you mentioned that your ideology gives you this thing that everyone can be amazing, or at least all women can be amazing, and we shouldn't have competition. Well, how come it's trying to put the genders against each other then? Why is that they have this male-female perpetrator victim thing then? That's inherently putting people in competitiveness with each other. That's putting people against each other. And they don't like people who aren't like them, especially if they're female. So again, you may think that is the case, but in reality, the troops on the ground and the higher ups disagree with you on that.
So I think that all 3 of these concepts of feminism, whether it be gender equality, breaking social stigmas of the past, and empowering all women,
none of those things are exclusive to feminism, and especially the second one. They're in the past for a reason. They're gone. Technically, there's a few people who believe that, and in fact, if you go to the Middle East, it's probably still very much prevalent, and that's now in the present or the future, and it's not going to change anytime soon unless you start actually going over there and trying to change stuff for the better. But until then, and as for the other two, well, egalitarianism and other ideologies have got you covered on that, and you don't need your ideology to believe those things. You can have no ideology and believe those things. It's just a set of ideas that most people have.
I don't think that any of these concepts are anything to be ashamed of, or any reason that the word feminism should be looked down upon.
It's not those concepts that people have an issue with or feel ashamed about. Again, you are horribly misinformed and seem to be ignorant of what people truly believe. Have you been asking people why they think this? Or are you just going to conjecture all the way through this video? The reason why they don't want to associate themselves with people like you is because most of your fellow cohorts don't believe in that crap. They claim to, but when they actually speak about these issues, they espouse something completely different. Their version of equality is people are equal, but more and more equal than others. That's their equality. Not yours, but theirs. And you seem to be ignorant of this. You seem to be unaware of this. That's why people don't like it. All the things I said before, that's why people don't like it. Or just don't want to associate themselves with it. Or maybe they choose not to because they don't feel that way. Which is okay, is it not? Why is it such an issue? Are you one of those people who says, oh, they have to be this because they're a woman, even though nobody should be anything because of their gender. That's what you said before, right?
I think that at the end of the day, each one of us is born with our own specific gifts, our own specific sets of talents and dreams and ambitions, and we are made uniquely for the purpose of fulfilling those dreams. I don't think that a woman should be a threat to a man. I think that a woman should be a threat to her own potential because she has the ability to do amazing things.
A woman should be a threat to her own potential? What does that even mean? That makes no sense. What, she should be a threat to it? You do know a threat is something that's dangerous. Shouldn't she be something that should be enabling to help fulfill it? That's not a threat. That should be more helpful. That should be someone who's trying to achieve it. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Don't you mean a threat to say inequality? That would make more sense. But I do get what you're trying to say, but that just completely threw me off. I don't even know how to even reply to that. Yes, nobody should be the enemies of anybody. I agree with that. In fact, you sound less like a feminist and more like an egalitarian to me. But nonetheless, yeah, I agree with the sentiment. Just that bit at the end is just a bit weird. It just makes no sense. I assume you're not using a script like I am.
Likewise, I don't think a man should be a threat to a woman. I think that everyone should acknowledge themselves as equals because at the end of the day, our genitalia, our organs, whatever we are born with, is simply for means of reproduction. There's nothing more than that. It does not at all measure your intelligence, your ability, your talents, your skills, or your value as a person.
I absolutely 100% agree, but they can also be used for fun.
Regardless of how we were brought up or what we were taught or who our parents were or if we are gay or if we are straight, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, whatever you can do with the body you are given, with the talents you are given, and with the intelligence that you were given, that is just not measured by the gender that you were born into.
Again, I 100% agree, but your ideology, on the most part, especially nowadays with its third wave, fourth wave, hell, I've even heard of a fifth wave now, they don't agree with you on this. They disagree wholeheartedly with this. They're very much in a female superiority group at this point, and you are pretty much an outlier.
So please, let's celebrate the word feminism as synonymous for equality.
But it's not synonymous with equality. No matter what the dictionary definition says, it's clearly outdated. Because what you lot have been doing, not necessarily you individually, but your ideology has been doing in the universities, in our law courts, not only is there a huge sentencing gap where men are sentenced higher than women for the same crimes. In fact, it's so big that it trumps even race. It doesn't matter which race you are, you will be put in prison higher than a woman. In family law, men are overwhelmingly fucked in that system. Women usually come out with the kids and men are ignored usually, and the National Organisation for Women opposes shared parenthood, and they're the biggest feminist organisation in the world. They're mainstream. So yeah, I would not say your movement has ever been synonymous with equality, especially as they've come out against the draft, even though men have had to be on the draft in order to vote, and since women are allowed into combat roles, they're now against it, even though they were never against it when it was just men. It seemed they were perfectly okay with having the privilege of not having to fight for your vote, or at least sign up to it in order to vote. So yeah, synonymous with equality. Again, you're showing your ignorance on that.
Because everyone seems to embrace the word equality, and feminism really means the exact same thing.
No, that's stupid, and that's bullshit. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to call you out on this. I've been nice, but feminism does not mean equality. It does not equal equality. It does not mean the exact same thing, especially as its track record suggests otherwise. You really are incredibly ignorant.
It doesn't have to be an ugly word or a harsh word or a threatening word. It just has to be a word that means free, fair, and equal.
For the vast majority of people, that's not what it means. And even the dictionary doesn't say that. It may say it advocates for this shit, but even then, its actions suggest otherwise. And it will never ever mean that. It's only what you think it should be, not what it actually is in reality. It seems your ideology is largely based on your feels, and not empirical data or facts.
I know that this subject is something that is open to many different interpretations, and I'm not saying that my interpretations of the word feminism is what's set in stone and is what it is.
Fair enough.
I would love to hear your different interpretations of what feminism means to you, and I would love for you guys to leave that in the comment section below.
And then the rest is just her outro, and we can leave it at that. I think ultimately this girl is a very idealistic person, a very ignorant person, but not a bad person, and certainly has her heart in the right place. But I had to make this video just, clarify a few things. I'm only trying to, give her my personal opinion. She seemed very open about that. I do hope she hasn't been downvoted to oblivion, because this person seems very open-minded, I hope. I mean, she's not shown me anything that suggests that the ignorance is out of, not wanting to know anything. I think we'll leave it there. If I can find out who she is, maybe a stream, but I don't know. I've not really had any luck with getting these types of people on here. So until next time, this has been Charming Man 93. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you like my channel, please subscribe, and if you love it, you can donate to that Patreon. Links all down below. And I'll see you all later.